Hey there, guys. Earlier today, I was live streaming Clash of Wills. During the live stream, we figured out the boss and got a rank 1, but of course, it was kind of chaotic, not really optimized, etc. So we're going to be going back with an optimized clear. Now I've got a turn chart and all that. So let's turn on all the modifiers. And this is the party we're going to be using. It's similar to the live stream team, but I've dropped Olive in favor of Chizuru to make turn 1 more stable. So this is the party we're going to go with. I will be trying alternate clears over the weekend, trying out different teams, different units, etc. So if you don't have one of these units, you know, maybe one of my alternate clears will work for you. But for now, we're going to go with this. So I'll try to explain the boss as we go, talk about potential alternate stuff, etc. Okay, so during the ambush, the boss is going to imperil and put up some buffs on himself. Now, the boss's buffs cannot be dispelled. They can be removed with Kaito, but we're not going to be using Kaito in this specific strategy. Okay, so turn 1, the boss is very painful. Definitely the most dangerous turn of the fight is the first turn. Also because it's very, very RNG. It turns out the boss can choose to use a bunch of dangerous attacks, or the boss might do almost nothing on turn 1. It's unfortunate that your first turn is just basically up to luck. So we're going to just need to hope the boss doesn't use a bunch of Mystic Forces on turn 1. So what we're going to do, we're going to use Tsukiko to Blessed Omamori, then Light Imbue and Light Field. Sylvie will do Petals, Vines, and Burgeoning Defense for the mitigations and resistance. Chizuru is going to do Strong Samurai for the stat buff, Breezy for the barrier, and then Focus Spirit for an 85 magical mitigation. We're going to use 2B to just do, not that actually, True Charge and then Double Bolting to fill morale. A2 will do Inorganic, Finisher to Defense Break, and then Offense. So they're doing their Light Imbues, Light Amplifies, etc. Okay, so like I said, turn 1 is extremely RNG and very painful. We're going to guard our Abigail for even more mitigation. She's auto-covering. If the boss does multiple force, Mystic Force, your tank's probably going to die. Just come back in and try it again. And so basically we're just going to go until the boss doesn't use a bunch of Mystic Forces on turn 1. He might even do none. So Mystic Wing, Mystic Spell, those are fine. There's one Mystic Force, that's okay. We're fine. So one Mystic Force or less, you're no problem. It's only if the boss decides to do 3 of them, then your tank might die. But as you saw, our tank was fine. It's just RNG. If your tank dies on turn 1, retreat, come back in, hope the next time the boss doesn't use as many Mystic Forces. I really dislike these completely RNG turn 1s, but there it is. And if you survive turn 1, you pretty much won. You've beaten the fight, because the rest of the fight is going to be very easy. Okay, so Abigail on turn 2 is going to do Drone Cover. We're going to do Contingency for the morale stuff, and we're going to do Anti-Magic Mechanism for the mitigations. We're going to use Chizuru to do Insect Buster on this turn. So, Insect Pulverizer, I'm sorry. Sylvie is going to put up Compassionate for the immunities, Vines, and Petals. Tsukiko on this turn is going to help just fill morale for the most part. So we're just going to do Purification twice and a Prayer of Protection. And then 2B is going to triple a Bolting Strike, and we're going to just triple a Heal combo on A2. This is just to fill the morale gauge, not really for damage. Okay, so this turn is like a nothing turn. The boss is never going to do anything dangerous. Some Mystic Beams, debilitate, basically nothing. So you're fine. Some Mystic Forces, but we don't really care at this point. Okay, so we're going to use the LB of Abigail. Now, I'm assuming your Abigail is EX2. So if your is EX3, the rotation would change a little bit, but we're going to just assume you're EX2. So we're going to go ahead and LB her on this turn. We're going to go ahead and use Sylvie to shift here and use her shifted LB for the stats, modifier buff, etc. And now we're going to start dealing some damage. But first of all, Chizuru is going to Tyvus' Spirit for next turn. Now 2B is going to shifted LB. We're going to triple Finisher with our A2. And then Tsukiko is going to shift and triple Solar Flare. And we're going to chain all this up and, you know, start, like I said, start dealing some damage to the boss. So we got to push the boss to the threshold. Now, currently at the time of this video, the threshold is bugged. So there is the gravity attack, and then some damage on your tank, but the shield should make sure your tank survives no problem. The HP bubble, etc. And then this turn, the boss is going to do that painful turn again, but now we've got a 100,000 point barrier, so we're fine. We're also going to use the SLB of Abigail on this turn. Do that first, so that we help refill her LB gauge from crystal drops and all that. And let me go ahead and put that in my turn chart. First is going to be the SLB, so that we get crystal drops. Anyway, now we're going to use Sylvie to do Insect Killer on 2B. We're going to then Clever Paladin Strike twice to just refill LB gauge for our Abigail. Tsukiko is going to just Solar Flare 3 times again. Now we're going to use the shifted LB of Chizuru to deal some damage. 2B is going to go to the base form, and we're going to just triple R40. And we're going to just triple Finisher with our A2. And we'll go ahead and chain this up. So like I said, the threshold is currently bugged on the boss. It might be fixed at the time of this video, but the threshold doesn't even matter. The 50% threshold. So the HP lock is the bugged thing I was talking about. So there we go, some counter healing on our Abigail, totally fine. We gave her a Blizzard Orb. Yeah, she counters the healing back up. Okay, on turn 5, Abigail is going to refresh cover, and now we're going to anti-magic and anti-physical mechanism. We're going to go back to the, we're going to triple Solar Flare on Tsukiko. We're going to go back to the base form with Olive. I can't talk. With Sylvie, and we're going to refresh Compassionate, Vines, and Petals. A2 is going to just triple Finisher again. We're just dealing damage to the boss. We're going to use Devastating on Chizuru, and we're going to triple R40 again on our unit. I can't talk. Anyway, go ahead and chain this up and deal a little bit of damage. If you push the 50 threshold, it's fine. If you don't, it doesn't matter. The boss, you know, the HP lock is currently not working. If you didn't push, you know, we're gonna keep going pretending like we didn't push the threshold yet. If you do push the threshold, the only thing that happens is the boss gets these mirages. It's not an icon. The boss has a 10-stack mirage, so we're gonna pretend like we didn't push the threshold. So we're gonna keep, like, you know, quote unquote dealing damage. So we're gonna LB with Abigail for the mitigations. We're gonna use Sylvie to defense, compassionate, and resolve for the healing. We're going to use 2B to do true charge and double R40. I'm sorry, we're going to go to the shift form. If you didn't push the threshold, stay in the we're gonna stay in the base form actually. Let me change my turn chart to make sure this is because it's actually fine to stay in the base form. So we're going to go ahead and true charge and double R40. We're going to inorganic and double Finisher. Chizuru will LB. And this is going to deal no damage because the boss has Mirage. But if the boss didn't have Mirage, we'd be doing all this. But we're going to go to the base form with Tsukiko before we do anything. And we're going to do Blessed Omamori. We're going to Light Imbue again. And we're going to Purification. And I should probably put this as a first once again, so we'll put this in the big bold letters first. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and chain it up. And we'll use the attack and magic buff this turn. And then we're going to go ahead and deal some damage, although the boss has Mirage because we pushed the threshold last turn. Now, at this point, you'll definitely push the threshold. If you hadn't before, you will on that turn. That will push the threshold. And again, the boss's AI doesn't really change much. Don't really worry about it. The actions the boss does will change depending on the turn you push the threshold, but it's kind of irrelevant at this point. Okay, turn 7, we're just going to guard Abigail. We don't need anything from her, etc. So we're just going to guard her for more survivability. Sylvie on this turn will use her shifted LB for the modifier buff, and we're getting set up to kill the boss on turn 9. Tsukiko will just do magic boost on turn 7. We'll use 2B to do her shifted LB, which is going to miss because of the Mirage. We'll use the SLB of A2. And we'll do an Insect Buster on, Insect Buster or Pulverizer on Chizuru. Okay, and we are dealing damage to the boss, but again, if you pushed the threshold later, the boss will have Mirage. You'd be burning through the Mirage stacks. Okay, there's the gravity attack. Don't worry about it. The barriers and all that are handling us just fine. So turn 8, Abigail will once again do her SLB for the mitigations. Tsukiko will just magic boost again. Sylvie will do, we're going to go to here, and we're going to do Insect Killer on our 2B. We're going to do Clever Paladin, and we're going to do the Magnus on 2B. Okay, 2B, in the shift form, will do her 150 Amplify and then a double Bolting Strike. That's mostly just to get rid of the boss's Mirage if you push the threshold later. A2 will do her Magnus Yorha and then a double finisher, again, just to make sure you are getting the Mirage gone. And we'll do Tyvus' Spirit with our Chizuru. And we're going to do our big burst and finish off the boss next turn. Okay, some attacks, gravity, not really worried about it. We've got mitigations on Abigail, etc. Okay, so at this point, the boss's Mirages should definitely be gone. But look at the boss's sprite. If the boss's sprite still has Mirage on it, then go ahead and use Sylvie as the... we can just do this anyway. So Sylvie will do triple Clever just to, get rid of the boss's Mirage if it was still there. Now it'll definitely be gone. So we're going to now use the base form LB of 2B. We're going to use the shifted LB of Chizuru. We're going to do A2 is going to do Hateful Blade. We're going to use Tsukiko to shift and do Shining Karmic. And Abigail will just triple Bolting Strike to match up with our Tsukiko. And we can go ahead and chain all this up. And that should be a damage cap as well as a finish off the boss. Because we've got the 150 amplifies of the near units at this point. So we did 3.7. Massive, massive overkill. You got to do about 2.9 to kill the boss from 50%. If you're not killing the boss all the way, if you're doing like 2.5 or 2.51 or something, and you're not quite killing the boss on that phase, then just chain the boss, chain a little bit, and or you can just kill him on turn 10, and you should be fine. Like, your tank shouldn't die on that turn, etc. Just finish him off the next round. And there is our damage cap. Here is the damage breakdown. So the near units are doing most of the damage here. Chizuru, a little bit low on the damage, and then Tsukiko is, really good for the field, etc. But Chizuru is really important for that first turn, for that 85 magic mitigation. It makes it a lot more stable. Okay, so I'll show you the team's gear and all that. So, our Abigail has some decent fire and light resist. You want about 350 after buffs. So we're using 200% fire buff, and then actually we're using like 80% from Sylvie. We're not really using Abigail's fire resist buff. So you want about 270 unbuffed. We kind of went overboard, which is fine. Give her a Blizzard Orb if you can. This lets her counter healing, and it's really good for filling her health back up. Other than that, just a lot of bulk. So here's the gear we use, some fire and light resist, and we're using the power cut card for the bulk. As much as much bulk as you can fit on her. And that's her setup. Now, if you don't have Abigail, people have used other units, and I will be trying other guides as well, but, for day one, we're using the new unit. Tsukiko in the base form is just morale fill, a source of magic boost, etc. The rest of the gear, kind of irrelevant. Shift form is just classic Tsukiko versus everything, evocation gear, the usual stuff, max to everything. Sylvie is provoking. It's probably not super important, but she is the provoker. Other than that, kind of whatever. She actually never gets hit other than gravity, so the gear is mostly irrelevant. She's just here for Sylvie stuff. 2B in both forms. Oh, no, I should have mentioned. The whole party is immune to paralyze and confusion. That is kind of important because the boss does that on turn 1, and we're not buffing immunity on turn 1. So 2B in both forms is just LB damage versus Aqua and Insect, and she's maxed on everything. Maxed LB, maxed Aqua, maxed Insect, and she's also confused and paralyzed immune because of the Genji helm, which is where she's getting that from. Chizuru in the base form, just type as a spirit. Other than that, honestly, mostly who cares. Give her some LB fill so that she does fill her LB back up. So, a bunch of LB fill, that's really all that matters. Shift form is just LB damage versus Aqua and Insect, and she's maxed on everything. So there we go. Give her, just a nice card. Maxed LB, maxed Aquatic, and maxed Insect. A2 is using Edgar's Coin for the status immunity. Other than that, just not LB, just, chaining damage versus Aqua and Insect. She's got 275 to both. Not quite capped, but, good enough. And that was the party. So the turn chart will be in the comments. As far as unit swaps, the DPS is honestly flexible. The near units weren't really doing anything critical. You could swap them out for your best DPS. You could go with a fire team with, like, the Nucleum and then Roberta, stuff like that. You can go with an ice team with the Ayaka. But I went with a light team because Nier has the 150 amps, and they're just very strong damage. So that's what I did. I'll be doing more clears this weekend. There it is. Hope it helps. Turn chart will be in the comments. See you. Oh, and like I mentioned, the HP threshold at 50%, the hit point lock is currently bugged. They may hotfix it to where it does work. Currently, it's not working. This strategy doesn't really care whether it's working or not. The strategy to work fine. If the boss HP locks, we don't care because we're killing the boss from 50%, overkilling anyway. But, so just keep that in mind. It might be patched. It might not. Whatever. Anyway, there's the clear. See you this weekend for some more alternate clears.